What's up, sports fans? It's Max Ryu again, and before I start my next NBA video analysis, I would like to tell you a little bit about myself and how I got exposed to NBA basketball. Right at the beginning of the 90s, exactly at the time in which the Bulls and Pistons rivalry has reached its climax, one of my aunts has brought us tapes of NBA games every now and then when she visited us at home, and those VHS tapes featured part of the '89 Pistons championship video, as well as the 1990 Eastern Conference Finals Game 3 between the Chicago Bulls and the Detroit Pistons, where Jordan had those spectacular 3 blocks, and among those victims was Dennis Rodman, and he also had around 42 points and 9 assists in this game, which was spectacular. Also, this video featured the 1990 NBA Finals Game 1 between the Pistons and the Portland Trail Blazers, where Isaiah Thomas had this incredible fourth quarter, finished with around 33 points, something like that, when he single-handedly took the game over for the Pistons. And it was incredible, man. Well, anyhow, my older brother and I really got into NBA as our main sports instead of soccer, which was Germany's true most popular sport. I, in particular, lost my interest in German Bundesliga soccer completely for many years, since being introduced to the dazzling basketball show of Michael Jordan, Scottie Pippen, Magic Johnson, James Worthy, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Isaiah Thomas, Hakeem Olajuwon, Joe Dumars. Well, you name them. You name it. Well, actually, you can say I was really ecstatic.
Fortunately for us, we just got cable TV that enabled us to watch international sports channels like Eurosport and especially Screen Sports, one of my favorite sports channels and the primary channel that featured weekly NBA games and the NBA TV show NBA Action. And while mentioning this show NBA Action, there are no other words to describe it than I really love that show. I mean, I was really dying for that show. It was so incredible at that time. Those were times, man. And the best thing about those sports channels was that we could switch the language into English, because the two of us, my big bro and I, we preferred to watch NBA in its original language, which was American English, and that is the way we two kept developing our English skills, by constantly being exposed to hear and listen and watch the show and try to understand it by the context and the visual content, which was NBA basketball action. And now, this message goes to Mr. Bruce Blitz. Yo, what's up? When I was exposed to NBA for the first time in the 90s, my favorite team and player, guess who? That was none other than Chicago Bulls and Michael Air Jordan, the best of all time. So practically, I'm a Bulls fan as well. I mean, I was especially during the entire Jordan era, even after Screen Sports disappeared from German cable TV and we had no choice than discovering new German sports channels that feature NBA live games and NBA weekly programs. So I witnessed the whole Chicago Bulls dynasty era in Germany, when NBA got more popular late in the 90s because of, guess who? Actually, I have watched the entire NBA Finals in 1991. My elder bro and I used to stay up late nights to support our favorite teams. My brother is a Lakers fan, and one of his all-time favorite players is Magic Johnson. It's not a surprise. And I supported my favorite player, which was Michael Jordan. And I must say, after all those years, when I look back now, they were one of the best NBA Finals that I've ever seen in my life, because it was not only Jordan's first NBA championship, it was heaven on earth for me having seen it live. Like, let's say 7 a.m. in the morning without sleep, the entire championship celebration with Jordan holding the NBA trophy in his arms and crying out aloud. That was... wow, it was incredible. Anyhow, the Chicago Bulls of the 1991, I mean, they were one of the most dynamic and explosive young first-time NBA champs ever. And I will talk more about that in the upcoming videos. And now, let me get back a little bit to the show NBA Action. The two of us followed it until the Bulls completed their famous three-peat, until Screen Sports vanished from German cable TV. As I said before, those were the prime times for our desire for NBA basketball and NBA history. We gathered all the knowledge, especially from the 80s until today. And this show featured things like On Fire, which were the highlights of the hottest players of the week, Holding Court, a portrait session about talented NBA players, Inside Look, Magic Moments, NBA Encore, and most important of all, the NBA Top 10 Plays of the Week. Everything commentated by the famous broadcaster Jim Fagan. I hope I pronounced his last name right. Well, all I can say is that he was the best ever NBA action commentator and broadcaster, because he gave that show an unbelievable, unforgettable flair of passion and entertainment mix. Something that is very rare and irreplaceable in comparison to today's broadcasters of this show. Nothing can top the excellence of Jim Fagan. I would like to have the courtesy to introduce you some quotes of him.
Welcome to NBA Action. As always, we've got the top 10 plays of the week, and they're coming right at you.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
In our courtside countdown. And a 1-2 punch in Chicago as Jordan staggers the Celtics and Pippen delivers the knockout. And Pippen with a steal. Did he get it in time? Yes, sir. Coming in at number 5, it's Stacey Augmon with an awesome move against the Lakers. Rebound up there.
Oh, great. That's the spark that the Hawks need. The inside play of Augmon.
With the number 1 play of the year, it's the Toronto Raptors' Vince Carter.
Baseline left reverse swing and two-handed jam. Oh my goodness.
That's our show for today. Remember, you can follow the NBA all summer long on the league's official website, NBA.com. I'm Jim Fagan for NBA Action. See you next year.
After Screen Sports vanished, we had no choice but to endure pseudo NBA TV shows on German free TV, most of them moderated by so-called experts who talked nothing but shit and nonsense. Among those experts, there were only two that I would consider competent, and they were Frank Buschmann and Matthias Stach, who moderated the DSF Sports channel. Around 1994, we were able to watch NBA games again live, or how would you say in English, the roundup version of live games from the day before. Exactly at the time in which Houston won back-to-back titles and Michael Jordan has made a comeback and from 1996 steamrolled with his team to the next glorious three-peat. I remember particularly watching the famous Game 5 of the 97 NBA Finals. The Utah Jazz were an incredible, ferocious and tenacious opponent for Jordan and the Bulls. Michael had that flu, but nevertheless demonstrated his usual killer instinct and determination by single-handedly carrying his team to a glorious victory. I remember exactly that I screamed so loud at 6 a.m. in the morning of a sleepless night before school after Jordan has drained that famous three-pointer that sealed the victory. Oh man, I can tell you that I have never ever yelled like that again in my entire life as a Chicago Bulls fan, as an admirer of Michael Jordan. Boy, oh boy, I was excited, worried, ecstatic, all in one go. I cannot describe that. I was never so excited in my entire life again, I can tell you that. Well, That's my story of becoming an NBA fan at the beginning of the 90s. I'm Maxi Ryu, and I'm out.